Hello, my name is Jesse Walter. In this video, I paint an image of Jesus for Easter. The painting itself took around 5.5 hours in totality. Originally, I had painted this for my godfather, Pete, but he unfortunately passed away before I could send this to him. Due to his unfortunate passing, I gave the painting to my cousin, Adria, Pete's daughter. I have already prepared the canvas board with gesso and sketched out my figure. In this video, we will apply a base layer of paint to block out the image, and then layer in our detail after. The base color of the robe will be defined with tones ranging from gray to white. The acrylic pigments combined to create these tones are titanium white and lamp black. Using a large flat-angled brush, I start with laying down a base coat of titanium white for the cloth robe. Generally, when I am working with variations of a hue, I like to create a swath of 3 shades of tone to help block out the definition of my subject. Use a small flat angled brush to work in the shading. Brushing on strokes with the wide side turned out is great for quick coverage. Turning the flat-angled brush on its narrow side will provide stronger linear detail. As I block out the painting, I must keep in mind that I want my light source to be located off the right side of the canvas. As I paint the cloth, I try to keep in mind that the most outer projected portions of the cloth should retain a lighter hue to visually articulate both the directional lighting of the environment and the depth of the wrinkles in the cloth. I use a darker tone with tighter line work to articulate the shadow effect caused by the cloth wrinkling and direction of the light source. Then I feather out this shadow until it visually makes sense. Sometimes it is necessary to either let the painting dry or, in this case, hit the acrylic layer with the hairdryer. I do this so that I may preserve the work thus far and enable me to quickly provide additional definition without overblending. Here I use a lighter shade to block in more detail into the darker portion of the cloth. From time to time, you may find me pulling the canvas off the easel or rotating it so that I might be able to leverage a comfortable angle. I continue to block out the cloth wrinkles with the small flat-angled brush as I start thinking about the hue that I want to use to block out the skin tone. I swap out my palette plate for a clean one so that I may start mixing the skin tone pigment. For the skin tone, I am starting with burnt sienna. Then I use titanium white to lighten it. It does not take much burnt sienna to increase the saturation of the tone. Once I am satisfied with the tone, I start to apply it to the neck portion of my subject. I am using a medium flat-angled brush to apply the pigment. I rotate the canvas so that I am able to leverage the flat edge of my brush with better precision. Once the base layer for the neck has been applied, I start laying down pigment into the facial region. I will switch back and forth between different brush sizes to fit my comfort and needs. I use just a dab of black to define the interior of the mouth. For the crown of thorns, I mix a smidge of lamp black into the dollop of dark sienna. Here, I struggle to get a comfortable angle on the crown of thorns. As I start working on them, I eventually take the canvas off the easel to get a better starting angle. I am using a straight, flat brush on the thorns because I really want to make sure to provide nice, clean, straight edges. Keeping that straight edge requires me to place the edge of my brush on the pre-drawn line edges and keeping pressure and angle of the loaded portion of the brush onto the desired area. I use a desaturated variation for the other thorns. This provides contrast of the intertwined vines. After laying down the initial base coat for the skin and thorns, I've decided to allow these layers to dry. The next day I return to start the foundational layer of the hair. I started with burnt sienna and titanium white to create the base tone for the hair. However, it is easy to see that these colors do not quite provide the light brown hue that I am searching for. So, I add primary yellow to the mix. This will brighten the brown up without overfading it with more white. For most of the hair, I have utilized a flat brush. I switch between brush sizes as I paint. Adding lamp black darkens the tone. I switch to a fan brush to provide multiple semi-even strokes to emulate the hair. This fan brush also adds a serrated edge at the bottom of the beard. I continue adding varying tones of brown to the beard using the fan brush. After allowing the painting to dry, I begin a second coat for further definition of the skin. Once again, I am using burnt sienna, to block out the facial features and adjust the tonality using titanium white. Since I am working in the brown palette, I also use my flat brush to touch up the crown of thorns and emphasize the darker shadows of the crown with darker browns. Using my mixture of dark brown pigments, I define the eyes, eyebrows, and add more detail to the beard and hair. For painting the blood, I have mixed primary red with a semi-gloss glaze. The semi-gloss glaze fulfills a couple of unique purposes. First, it will have a bit of transparency to it depending on the amount of glaze added. Secondly, it will retain a slight gloss or wet look to it after the paint has dried. I am applying the paint with a round brush. I use titanium white to clean up some of my edges around the thorns and elsewhere on the canvas. Calling it good here, and I sign the painting.